All right, out there, guys. This is Shawn again. So I want to put some of these numbers out there. Handwriting's terrible. I'll explain them. Don't worry about it. I'm sorry. Starting out when you're learning, I've talked about, it's easily achievable to get 30 bucks an hour. Okay, I would recommend that because you're going to still have fuel and driving out there to give a bid. You're going to have fuel out there when you're working, just for a vehicle. Okay, I have actually seen people for 30 bucks an hour literally like not even have a vehicle. Like somebody has to drop them off, they go to work, and then they get done. So if you're starting out, I'm telling you, you guys are going to do whatever you have to do to make money. Okay, now this is huge. I mean, can you imagine how long it would take you to get 30 bucks when you're just working fast food? If you've literally are at that, if you're really young, hey, I get that you're not making very much. That would have been huge for me when I was young. So once you are learning how to prune and stuff, I would still recommend not being less than 30 bucks an hour. Now, because Keith Kalfas has actually talked about this, guys, and he made a mistake, and I'm not talking bad about him. I'm just saying, he's explained, he made the mistake that he was only charging like 15, 20 bucks, $25 an hour, and he quickly realized, there's fuel, there's expenses, there's a lot of things that go into this that if you haven't been in business before, you might not see on the surface at first. You kind of learn as you go, like how to figure your expenses. Okay, so learning 30 bucks an hour. Once you know the basics, you know how to prune to where you can actually create value for your customer at that time. Okay, that's when I would, you can progress at 40 and 50. However, I just say once you're knowledgeable, you should be at this. So your progression can be whatever price that you want to justify. Okay, plus if you have a chainsaw, maybe you want to start out at 35 or 40 an hour. Okay, you can easily achieve that kind of stuff. But I'm just saying, if you're just doing light stuff, you could easily do that. Once you know what's going on and you're working alone, I would be at $1 a minute, $60 an hour. And then, see, at that rate, you can have a chainsaw, forestry saw, weed eater, whatever it is that you're wanting to do. If you're wanting to like reclaim land for a yard, or if you're wanting to work on a rental property for a real estate company, sky's the limit. Now, I will talk about marketing, guys. That is a huge thing, and that is what propelled me like it did, was marketing. Okay, if you don't market, you don't even have a company. So you've got a worker and you're at 90 bucks an hour. So that is still with really like a pickup or a van or an SUV and then a trailer, and you have then got your basic tools. Okay, because you could easily bang out 90 bucks an hour, because even though you can charge whatever amount you want, you'll run into the problem that the customers don't see value in what you're doing because you're not efficient enough yet to charge those rates. Does that make sense? Because if I can do a job in one day and I charge $1,000, well, just because you charge the same hourly rate, it'd be hard for you to take 2 days on that job and then charge $2,000. Your efficiency will come into play to where then you can be comparable on price with other people, or that's complicated because you could still be way better than another company and charge more, but there is a limit to what you can charge. You can't just run out there and say, hey, I can do this tree for $5,000 when the other highest bid might be $1,500. So there is a play that you have to learn in order to bid efficiently. There are so many ways that you could do that. Okay, but now I'll go into the next. And so once it's you and a worker, you and your brother, you and your cousin, you and your friend, however you want to do that, make sure, as you progress, you have to start becoming legal with your insurances. That's another video, but because it's so extensive, there's so many insurances that you need, and we're bonded, we're licensed. It's a lot into it. So you need to understand that once that you've gotten to here, you should already have general liability of at least a few $100,000. Okay. And if you have a full-time employee, then you're already going to need workers' comp on him. So at this rate, I'm routinely $120 an hour for just me and another guy. Now, I like to get, sometimes I'll do less than that. Sometimes I'll do about 100 bucks an hour. It depends on the risk, depends on a lot of things, okay? I put the 250 down because you're going to hear me talk about insurance work, okay? You're going to talk about me doing like high-risk jobs, okay? 250 is pretty normal when you're talking about a very small crew and then you're working on a roof because a house has had a tree fall on it. you know, sky's the limit of what a tree could have fell on. You know, I would recommend charging a lot. You know, the guys around here have not found out. They do not understand that you need to charge a lot on these jobs for risk. You know, some of these guys will get into these jobs and they just don't make enough to get better equipment. They're not insured correctly at all. And there's already a guy here in Atoka that I think is going out of business because he pulled the name off the side of his truck. And there's only a few guys here in Atoka that do it. My dad's one of them. And then, so really there's only 3 total services, and me and my dad's 2 of them, okay? So, and he looked like he was going out of business. Now there's just tons of tree guys, okay? Because a lot of times, you know, starting out, you know, it's okay to go and get a pickup and a chainsaw. However, a lot of these guys, that's all they've ever done, you know, for decades. They've always just been the guy that can do a tree. They'll just climb up it with no safety gear, no PPE of any kind. That is not the right way to do this, okay? Because I am going to put together kind of a disclaimer and some things that you really need to understand, okay? Like, I will give advice on insurances and things, and I'll explain what I've done. However, you need to understand that, you know, I am not a lawyer. You know, I am not someone that can really explain the IRS standards to you. You know, I just, because I have to have someone at H&R Block handle everything from my payroll to taxes. You know, there's nothing that I do by myself because everything's so complex. There's so many things to take off. I would never recommend like those turbo taxes and stuff for your company, you know, because the bigger you get, the more complex it is. So I would rather have someone else accept their liability for me than me have to deal with that. So once you're in this range here, that's the insured. You need to be maybe licensed, maybe bonded, depending on whatever you'd like to do. But make sure that, you know, you're doing that legally by then, because obviously if you're at that rate, you're probably doing quite a few jobs a year or a month or whatever. You know, you're doing at least enough dollars a week to make that make sense. So I will actually break these down even further. This right here is just when you're starting out, okay? These are not necessarily numbers that you always want to be going for because there's so much more money in trees, okay? And I will talk about like crane jobs and stuff too, because that is a huge interest of mine, all right? So I hope that this has shed a little bit of light to you as far as, you know, what to expect, because I didn't know this at first. You know, this is actually my progression to an extent, okay? Now I did charge, I just skipped that part basically. So this is really what I came in at, okay? But I mean, I've been doing it for 11 years. So, you know, I've already had to deal with that kind of stuff a long time ago at just dirt cheap, you know, $6 an hour, $10 an hour. It's just like a worker, you know. I never had any ownership of my dad's company whatsoever. It was just a worker, that's it, period. So my next one will be, I'll show you some equipment, okay? And I'll talk about that. I know that's what a lot of people always have questions on. So thanks guys. I'll make you another one here pretty quick, and have a good one.